holding emotions, and we've talked about this before, is not good for your health, right? But I guess my question there is that I don't know that sometimes we know that we're doing it or that we can help that we're doing it.
We often teach the things we most need to learn. So you and I can talk on this show about all the great things you should do for your mind, body, health, and vitality. Doesn't mean we don't fall into the same traps that everyone else does just because we talk about it and research this stuff.
Christmas is a time for reflection and for letting go of old and allowing new things in as well.
Harry. Merry Christmas. Almost, my friend. This is our Christmas edition today. So we're recording this just before Christmas. It'll go out before Christmas. This is our Christmas special. How are you doing, my friend?
Well, I'm doing quite well. I've got one more day of actual work left, really, before 3 weeks of non-work, which is great. And we're recording it. It's Monday. I've had the weekend to recover from a busy week last week. And interestingly, I don't feel too shattered. It's been quite a busy term from September to now. But I am in need of a bit of time off. So had a good school today, a nice cycle there, nice cycle back, only half an hour. Went along the canals as well for part of the journey, which is always pleasant. I've eaten, I rested. My mum's gone out to watch some special BAFTA movie screening, so I've got that place to myself, which actually, you know what, makes a big difference, because when I've got someone in the house, and you wouldn't necessarily know this, or well, maybe you would, I suppose, because you've got a constant humdrum of noise of
I do.
people.
Yeah, I do.
And I do as well. But so my mum will be like in the other room and she'll be watching something around now. I should put the telly on from about 6 o'clock. And I actually have these ear defenders here because I just want like silence a lot, especially if I've been in the school all day and I'm getting noise. And it just feels nice to be like not having to engage with anyone. Obviously, I'm engaging with you right now, but just to be home. And
Yeah, nice.
like,
Although I love the fact you have ear defenders in your house for when your mum makes noise.
you know why?
I'm not sure I could get away with that in my house.
It's not the way she. Here you go. You know
There you
what?
go.
You know what I
Come on, Lucy. You can't listen to you now, mate. I've got my love. I've got my ear defenders
You
on.
know why I bought these actually is when I first moved into this house 5 years ago, I could hear the neighbors quite a lot, unfortunately, through lots of walls. And so I looked into the whole soundproofing, and you have to do quite a bit on all sides. It was gonna cost like £5,000, and these were like 10 or 15 quid. And
It's a bit like, if you want to get faster on a bike, don't buy a new bike, just shed the weight. It's
yeah, that's a good one. Yeah,
a much cheaper way of doing it, right?
there we go. So
But
that's why I got those. But how
well,
are you?
I'm actually, well, I am a bit tired because I've just come back from a week with the team in St Albans, so in Harpenden. We've had our Christmas party. We've had a full week of work and events. So all good, fun stuff. Great to reconnect with all the team back in Hertfordshire. Really good Christmas party, but it went on quite late. I had to be up early morning to drive back from Hertfordshire to Devon to get back for Leo's football on Saturday morning. So that was a sort of get in early hours of the morning, get up again at 5:45 to drive back
Jesus.
to Devon. I made it for the football. They lost 6-1, not ideal, but then straight from that, typical me, I crammed everything in. So left that to go to a paddle match. Lost to a game we never should have lost because I'm struggling really badly with tennis elbow at the minute, which means it's preventing me from playing good paddle. And then straight back from that, get home. Got back at sort of 10 to 3. Cab picked us up at 3 to go back into Exeter for another night out for my friend's 40th birthday.
Well,
So, I am catching up on lost sleep, but lots of fun.
you go
And
full on. You go full on,
yeah,
man. I mean, I
good,
I
right?
I have not got that for the weekend.
Recalibrating, right? It's recalibrating and recovering. So I'm
Yeah.
looking.
I think my busiest bit, I mean, to be fair, I did have my 3 nieces stay over Saturday night, which was great because I haven't hung out with them for months, it seems. And so my mum took them on, but only because I was gonna be around. So I ended up, playing basketball with them and football and then cooking, and then we ended up watching Elf. Is it Elf that you watch every year? I can't remember if that's
I
the.
love Elf. For me, I don't know how it got fourth in the all-time Christmas movie list that was recently given out. It should be first in my book.
I
It's
mean,
just the best. It
I
makes
don't
you
know.
feel Christmassy. It's funny. I loved it. I
I
love
don't
it.
know. I'm not so enamored with it, but anyway, we watched that on the big screen, and so it was so nice. And one of the best bits was when the 6-year-old comes crawling over to me and just like unrequested comes and like cuddles and hugs on me and stuff like that. So that was really nice. And then
Must enjoy. You remember the original Santa Claus the movie, where
I used to
where
love that
the
one.
toy maker goes out to become the new Santa, and he rebels. The original Santa Claus.
The
Can't
one,
think who
or the
plays.
1986 one.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
love that one. Yeah, that one.
Love that movie.
Yeah, yeah.
That's up there. That's a brilliant movie. That's
Yeah,
a good
I
movie.
didn't make it in the IMDb top 100.
I think Home Alone won the award, didn't it?
Home
Which is
Alone does get it. Yeah, I did see Die Hard in there for the top 10 as well. Yeah.
still a lot of debate as to whether it's a good. I'm in the camp that it is, by the way. But a lot of people
I'm in
not
the
so sure.
camp that it is as well, because there's a lot they lean into Christmas quite a bit in it, I think.
They do. Has to
Uh,
go home for Christmas, right? He has to go home for. I
that's
like
the thing.
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Where he has
Yeah,
to get back for Thanksgiving, not quite Christmas, but I like
exactly.
that one as well.
Yeah.
But look, we think about Christmas
Mm.
often framed as joyful. It certainly is in my household. I remember the Christmas episode we did last year. Where we talked about why it's a really good day for us. All the people you tend to know and love are around you at this time, but pressure often hides expectations as well. So probably a lot for us to
Mm.
unpick from a mindful past perspective. So I don't know where you want to kick off today. We can talk about anything you want. We can talk about joy. We can talk about nostalgia for you, grief as well because of your situation of losing your dad. So you're coming around to that as
Yeah.
well. So
Yeah,
Chris
so
brings everything home, right? It brings anxiety. It can bring grief. It can bring joy. It can bring
yeah, I
nostalgia. It can
honestly
bring,
I've been thinking about this a fair bit the last few days because, um, I had obviously the girls staying over at the weekend, and so Christmas is a very different experience when you're 10, 12 years old compared to 48 or something, and when you're single versus in a family. And I'm looking at my 2 sisters, I'm looking at you, and your Christmas experience is so different from mine because I don't really necessarily, like, notice it a lot of the time. So actually, like yesterday, I went out. Yesterday was Sunday. I met up with a friend I haven't seen for a few months, and we just met for lunch. And the idea was just to get a bit of Christmas feel, go around the lights and all of that. And that's basically the first thing. Although I have to say, I put my Christmas tree up in November in the other house, so there isn't one here, and I've been here
very good.
for a while, and so I haven't felt Christmassy here. Although we've watched a couple of Christmas movies to try and feel it. But honestly, yeah, for myself and my mum, it's a very different ball game. Not just because of the loss, obviously, which I haven't thought about too much. Although I was thinking about a little bit on the way into work today.
I think for
Um,
context, all the listeners that are joining us for the
Late
first time today may not be aware of what you're referring to, but of course you lost your dad
Christmas Eve,
on
2 years ago.
this. Yeah.
2 years ago this Christmas Eve, very unexpectedly and suddenly. But, yeah, so I think, I was feeling that a little bit now, and I partly I was thinking this today because I remember one of your listeners, vividly remember this. She sent us a really long voice note, I think maybe a few months after
Yeah,
your dad passed
Turkey.
away,
Yeah, it was, yeah.
and I remember she was saying in there that, like, the second year is the harder year because the first year you kinda get through all the firsts and whatever, or first Easter, first Christmas, first whatever, birthday, whatever. And the second year is where the realization hits. But then I was thinking to myself, I'm wondering whether I'm still I was thinking this, I was thinking, I wonder if I'm still in some kind of denial or doubt about it, because I haven't cried much over the last couple of years since the original stuff. And then I was thinking, I wonder if I just need to, like, I'll do some therapy one day and I'll be crying for 5 hours, and then suddenly my HRV, my heart rate variability, will suddenly skyrocket, and it's been depressed, like, because of something. And because as we talk about mindful past and mindful everything, right? Holding emotions, and we've talked about this before, is not good for your health, right?
No.
But I guess my question there is that I don't know that sometimes we know that we're doing it or that we can help that we're doing it, because I'm not like deliberately trying to
Well,
push
it's the
things.
whole no, well, funny, I'll give an example of something that I was not expecting to share today. But, in the interest of vulnerability and honesty, I'll share something with you in a minute. And actually, it's quite probably because I'm a little bit disturbed with myself, right? And I had a bit of a moment yesterday, funny enough. So I lost, for those listening, if you're new to the show, I lost my dad 3 months after Harry lost his, and so we do share that experience live on the show. And echoing what you just mentioned there, like we often teach the things we most need to learn. So you and I can talk on this show, but all the great things you should do for your mind, body, health, and vitality doesn't mean we don't fall into the same traps that everyone else does just because we talk about it and research this stuff, right? Myself more than you, admittedly. We talk about this stuff. I probably live a little bit more in the world of not doing the best things to your body all the time than you do. But even so, right, we can say all the great things, but we don't always live those things ourselves all of the time, and that can be quite challenging. But here you're talking about letting go is really what you're referring to, whether you need stuff to let go, whether you know about it subconsciously or not. So here's something. God, I feel a bit awkward even sharing it. Maybe my sister's listening to this, but it's bizarre, right? So when I lost my dad, and I lost him, I was with him by his bedside when he died. He died of prostate cancer. I was very aware that after we kind of said goodbye and the kind of soul had left the body or whatever, if you believe in that or not, it's about half an hour after it passed, and the family left the room. Yeah, I had that moment where I realized it'd be the last time I ever saw him, right? So I took a photo of him, but he'd already passed. But I knew that I wouldn't see him again. And there was something, even when I was doing it, it felt a little bit wrong. But I also knew that if I didn't do it, I didn't want any regrets that I never had that last image of him. And as you know, one of the things I struggle with is my memory, right? So I don't have the same memory as my siblings. They remember everything. I remember very little by comparison. Like very, you and I talk about cycle tours, and I remember like a blur of all of them, not the individual ones, right?
Yeah.
I had this fear that I would forget the last moments, and I took a picture. Now, I came across this picture yesterday. I was scrolling through, and I was thinking about my dad for various different reasons, the things that had happened. And I was looking for him, and I came across this image, and it immediately disturbed me. I felt quite emotional for this reason. It took me back to that bad moment. And actually, it's the image I don't want to remember really because he was, had
Mm.
edema. He was very unwell, but I still haven't quite got to the point of removing the image. I think I need to delete it to help let it go. That last image, that's not how I want to remember him, by the way. And it feels slightly disturbing that I have this image of ultimately someone that's passed away on my phone, albeit being my dad. But I haven't still quite got to the point where I'm able to. And that's definitely a bit of letting go that I probably need to do, but I'm so fearful that I'll forget that last bit. Even though it's the bit I don't really want to remember, there's something, I don't know what you'd call it. It's quite I think it's quite disturbing. I feel like I am quite disturbing by even having this. I was talking to my wife about it yesterday. I don't know if I should be disturbed that I have this image, that I even took the image, and that I haven't deleted this image. But it's my last moment with him. And even
Mm.
though he's not with us in this world anymore, it's still my last moment. And that's just something about it that I don't want to look at it. I don't want to, and yet I haven't got to the point of removing it because when it's gone forever.
Yeah.
So there you go. This is a Christmas special. I wasn't expecting to bring this up, but you brought it up, and it's like it's a bit
Well, I
disturbing,
mean,
right?
Christmas is a time of for reflection and for kind of letting go of old and allowing new things in as well. I mean, I know, I don't need a photo because that image is etched in my brain, just like the image of when I saw my grandmother, like, within about half an hour after she died. And both images are also linked to a tactile sense as well, because both my dad, when I kissed him on the forehead, I could never forget that feeling of cold.
Yeah, I can remember it as well, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same with my gran when I,
Yeah.
even
Cold as the white image.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
like, it's so evident to me that the body is a
A
vehicle.
vessel.
Yeah, a ve
Yeah, yeah.
because
Yeah.
because
Like a waxy
it's like
cold.
it's like you've got the car engine on, and you turned it off, but it goes cold straight away. It's like
Yeah, yeah.
there's no lingering heat there at all. Um, and so I don't wanna yeah, I mean, that image is there, and it's
Just
interesting.
you saying that word has brought that back for me, to be fair. I
Yeah,
get it.
it's a gray it's like they're gray, there's no color in their skin. I mean, my mum has got one of these phones like we all do, where sometimes it says 4 years ago today and 5 years ago today. I don't know if you
Yeah,
have
I've
that
got that
one.
as well, mine, yeah.
And he popped up in a couple of them yesterday with my nieces, and she was like saying, he looks ill. Why did we not pick it up? Like 3 years ago or 4 years ago, when he was looking basically drained. I think heart failure really from around 2021, really 20, yeah, yeah, 2021. Um, I mean, I don't know. I think maybe you're obviously trying to hold on to that. Well, not obviously, potentially you're holding on to that last lingering moment, right?
I feel like it's disturbing. Like, it's a side of me that I feel is a disturbing side that probably a therapist
I
can
don't
help me
know.
out. I don't know. I feel like it's a bit odd, but
I don't perceive that from that. It's more of a, you don't want to let your father go, right? You want to, and why do we take photos? To keep those memories, to keep some of that alive. But yeah, I mean, maybe, I mean, look, even if you delete it, things are never quite deleted, because they're somewhere in a cloud somewhere, so I'm sure you'll find it if you wanted to again, but, yeah, maybe it'd be a cathartic thing for you to do, you know, as a yeah, in a ritualized way, almost.
Yeah. I almost did it yesterday. I haven't quite got around to it yet. But,
Yeah.
there's still a bit of me that, is in probably a little bit of denial because
Mm.
it right now, he could still be at home, but he's not,
Well, that's
obviously,
it.
but
You know, even though I'm living with my mum when I'm up in London, you know, and I think this is what I was thinking about this morning or reflected on this morning on the cycle is that, you know, a person is so much more than the 1 or 2 brief moments you might get in the same room as them. Like, I haven't been in the same room as you. I can't remember when we last met up, but for a while, right? But you appear as text messages, as, you know, memories in photos, as, you know, you're right. I read something today on LinkedIn. You were talking about being part of some Forbes thing, right?
yeah, yeah, I had, an article published by Forbes
Yeah,
today, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so you exist beyond your confines, right? And so does my dad, right? My dad, even when he was alive, right, 98% of my working week, I wouldn't see him or be speaking to him probably, right? So he exists as a memory, as an emotion, as a feeling. If I'm not looking at pictures or anything like that, he exists like I think of dad, right? Um, and so yeah, I mean, these are all things that create our experiences of a person. So it's not unreasonable to sometimes think, "Oh, he's still around," right? Because in some sense, he is, because he was in most other senses when he was alive.
I
He's
think
in the
that's
memory.
part of why I haven't got rid of it because I almost need that image a little bit to remind me that he's not, but it's quite
Mm,
morbid.
mm,
It's quite morbid, and it was a really, really distressing time for everybody, although I'm kind of glad I was with of course, I'm glad I was with him in the final moments, but equally, I kind of wish he'd never been in the state he was. It's one of those
mm.
yeah, yeah, it's I think that's part of it. It's just I think I live in a a slight space of denial that he's gone all at all, but
Yeah,
just
and I
too
think I
almost
think
2
we
years for me,
we
right?
do, and I think, like, I think we talked about early on when we were talking about the stages of grief,
Mm.
of which I can't remember them offhand, but I think we talked about the fact that it's not a ladder where you climb up one and then you
No.
go to the next one, get to the next one. Sometimes you might be living through multiple stages simultaneously.
Yeah, I think I got emotional yesterday with my wife because it was like, this is the image that reminds me that
Yeah,
he has gone, and I think that's part of why I haven't quite I need that almost yeah, it brings it home sometimes,
yeah,
and, I can live
yeah. I mean,
day to day thinking it,
I
and
tend
that's
to really have it hit home when I'm watching so like, so last night I was watching not a very good movie on Amazon Prime, Merv, like with, Charlie Cox from Daredevil with an English accent because his English, it sounds really weird. But anyway, there was a scene with him and his dad, and his dad was, you know, doing well, but like he said something about, "Oh, you know, you're not sure how long I have left," or yeah, whatever, something like that. And so any kind of father-son scenes always, you know, in that kind of way get me. Um, yeah,
I'll
and
tell you
Christmas we've got
something funny, listen,
right, Christmas.
I'll promote I'll promote another podcast on this show because it was a bit of a tearjerker, out warning out there, tearjerker. Oh, it's for me, is I've got a bit of an affinity for the homeless. My mum found herself homeless when she was much younger, and although I didn't know her then because I wasn't born, she was much younger. It's always kind of stuck with me that you can end up in that situation for many many reasons. And there's a show called Begin Again, which Davina McCall hosts. She's brilliant, by the way. She has a brilliant podcast. She's very vulnerable in it. She gets emotional in it. I recommend it to anyone listening. But she does a show, and the episode is about a guy who she obviously knows from her personal life, and she just features his story. He's about to write a book, and he invited in a guy for Christmas, a homeless guy, and the guy ends up living with him for like 40, 50 years. And he knew the guy from before, but he lets him back, and the guy turns up homeless at his doorstep, and he ends up inviting him in. And that's what happens next. And this guy ends up having a family, and this guy lives with them all the way through. He's called Ronnie, and Ronnie ends up passing away later on, but he's all the things Ronnie ends up achieving and doing because of that one opportunity to say yes rather than kind of reject them and bring them in and what he brings into their lives. And it was very, very difficult and for various reasons. But he said, would you do it again? He said, absolutely,
Mm,
because giving back is really what life is about. And that's kind of what Christmas is about as well. It's about the giving. It's not about always about presents and
yeah,
financial what you can afford, right? It's actually a lot of it's about protecting your energy, not just your time, and giving the energy to the right people, whether that's love, forgiveness, support, time, whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
I think,
which means that,
like, that's what, my mum and I were discussing the other day, 'cause I was asking her about presents, like, if she wanted me to buy things on Amazon for her or online for her, 'cause she doesn't really do that. But, and she was saying, again, like, I think a lot of the kids, they want the presents, and I accept that because they're young, they don't have incomes, they can't just go and buy what they want. Christmas is one of the 2 times a year that they can get
right,
something.
yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like, I observe my sisters, and I feel it's too much, too obsessive with all this stuff. And you get a list, and it's 50 things on it, but I hear them saying to my mum, it's not that they want 50 things, they're just giving you options, right? To sort of say, look, get something. And she's saying, and I kind of agree with her to some level, right? Be thankful you get something, whatever. But then on the flip side, I remember being a young, like, preteen and everything. And most of the time being a little bit, honestly, I've said this,
Disappointed?
yeah, a little bit disappointed because
Like, everyone's not like that. You get the
you didn't get what you wanted. Or there was one year, actually, I think it was the year I got into secondary school, that I got basically everything I could dream of. I was like really happy with everything. But it's hard because, on the one hand, Christmas, I don't know. I mean, it's about many things, but obviously, like, everything has been commercialized to the nines, so that people can make
I'll
money.
give a good example. I think I like this. So as a kid, I mean, like you were talking about all the lists. I know as kids for me, we just grew up with them, like the Argos catalog, whatever it might be, and you'd just for hours look. Didn't have online Google and stuff in those days or Amazon. You just go for hours through the catalog, highlighting all the things you may or may not want for Christmas. Right? I remember doing that with real excitement. And years and years ago, when I was with a kid, I remember seeing something that I wanted to get my parents for Christmas, which was like, oh, you'll know what they're called, like a crystal. That's the name for them. You get like the port goes in one, and then you got all the little glasses. What's that called? It's called a
No.
oh
Oh, like for proper drinks kind of setup?
yeah, like a drink. So there's a name for it. I can't know what it is. But it came in like little.
Like a
It was
claret,
glass.
what, a carafe?
Yeah, like a carafe with little port glasses, whatever. And I thought it looked really nice. I had all this like cut. It was like cut crystal, but clearly it was glass, and that's all I could afford. It was probably like 25 quid or something. But for me as a youngster, that would have been a lot of money. I used to work for £2 an hour for my parents doing jobs around the nursery school and stuff. And I remember saving up to buy this like carafe set for them. And looking back, they've still got it. It had like a plastic, the bit that keeps the drinking was like plastic and it underneath. It was all cheap and crappy, but what I love is even now, mum still has elements of what I gave her. But what I did, I didn't just because it came in a really like shitty cardboard box, real good, proper cheap. That I got loads of. My mum used to work in haberdashery, so she'd like make sofa covers and things and sell them or whatever. And she used to have lots of velvet, so I got loads of velvet. And I remember getting a stapler and stapling velvet to all the bits of the box. So for me as a kid, it looked really luxurious that I presented her in this. And of course, looking back at it, it's just cardboard with staples all over it, with bits of velvet that I've badly cut out and stuck in, so it felt thing. But for my mum, she said the box kind of meant more to her than the item inside because she knew I'd taken it all apart and I'd been sticking and stapling this velvet on to make it luxurious and stuffing stuff underneath so it had like a padding to it. And I wanted her to feel like I didn't want her to know that I had done that work. I wanted her to feel like it came like that.
Yeah,
And when you look back at it, it's horrendous. But it's that whole idea of it's not really the item, it's the thought
yeah,
behind
it's
she knew I'd
like
saved
that.
hard for it and
I mean, that's
stapled this
also
bad velvet box.
that's also partly what I think when it comes to presents in general, is that on the one hand, I don't like this idea of lists, because I like the idea that someone knows me, or gives thought and knows me well enough to think. But then on the flip side, I know that I'm could be challenging as a person, to buy for. Um, well, I say that at the same time, I'm grateful for anything, but and like I said, Christmas is not the same to me, anyway, as an adult. Um, but I think the whole present stuff, like we've said before, it's about presents, not presents, right?
Yeah.
With a C rather than a TS or whatever. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, we're leading up to Christmas. I mean, I am looking forward to hosting Christmas for the first time, I think, ever. So
Wow.
maybe I should be
So
more worried about that. I'm not.
vegetarian menu?
I'm not gonna make a turkey, but my brother-in-law will make a turkey at theirs and bring it around. I think that's the idea. For multiple reasons. One, I haven't like got the oven space, and I'm gonna do tons and tons of other things. But also I can't remember if I've ever cooked turkey. And like I said a few weeks ago, I cooked a chicken for the first time in 15 years. And I don't wanna risk it with the turkey. So
Fair enough.
I'm not gonna do that. But yeah, I think my one of my nieces literally told me the other day she's now become a non-meat eater because I was making them steak for dinner. Obviously, I don't eat steak, but I was making them steak on Saturday night. But the little one just eats pasta, so she was having pasta, and the older one ate a little bit of steak, and then the middle one was like, "Oh, I don't eat meat anymore." So she ended up she eats eggs though, so she had a couple of eggs. So I don't know. For Christmas, she was like, "What am I gonna have for Christmas?" I was like, "Oh well, I guess you'll have what I have, which is like a nut roast." So I'll
I'm
probably
I'm not hosting for the first time in years. I'm going to my sister's, which I'm very excited about.
and
And
you
we're
go
not
in
even
the
hosting
morning.
go to a pub, so which is the first time we've ever done that. We usually host both every year,
It
and,
Into a pub for grub.
we're going to my sister's for Christmas, which will be great. So she's hosting, which I'm really excited about because we've hosted them and my mum for quite a few years on the trot. So that'd be quite good. So a little bit of time to chill out with them. And then for New Year, we usually host as well. And I said to my wife, you know what? Because we're getting back the day before New Year's. I just thought we don't need the hassle this year. Quite frankly, I was feeling lazy and let's just outsource it and go and have a good time. So instead, we just booked a local pub where they got like a pub quiz and for New Year's. They haven't got a cook. There's food there we can order. It's like an interactive quiz, good for kids. They've got like a round on making stuff out of Play-Doh and just
Mm.
doing silly things so everyone gets involved. So so yeah, no, it should I'm really looking forward to it because it's kind of a hassle-free.
Yeah.
Um, and that's hopefully again going back to it makes us a bit more present. I think last couple of years I get so into it that I can be not I'm present in the food, I'm present in my own little world, but everyone else life is happening around me and I'm stuck in the kitchen and no one I don't want anyone else in my domain, right? I'm like, no, I'm doing it, and need to be the trophy cook. And it's like, so I end up being relatively antisocial. The Christmas day becomes a little bit of everyone has to be on time, and yeah, we're gonna
I'm gonna try
take
and
them
get it
out of the
planned
equation.
out. So I'll be prepping everything on the Christmas Eve. Everything will be good to go. Shove it in the oven. Hopefully, won't have to do too much. I mean, some of them aren't gonna get there till quite late anyway because they're gonna come from London, and so I'm hoping it's gonna be okay. The only thing I'm a little bit concerned about is when I told some of my nieces, I go, "We're gonna host it at my place," and they're like, "Oh, is it gonna be like homely?" Because obviously I kind of just moved into the other place. It's still loosely furnished and doesn't have the pictures up and
So
all.
you're seeking that log fire, that homely
Yeah, I mean,
feel.
there is a wood burner, but that's in what will be a bedroom, and is kind of currently the gym. So there isn't gonna be that thing there. And I was like, I don't have blankets because 'cause I'm a bit minimalistic. So I'm like, okay, we'll see. We'll see. I've got the tree, but I don't have what I think is gonna be super homely because there's not a, like it's not a family home where I look at
Mate,
family homes and there's not
little
stuff.
tip, little I know you're not a big alcohol. When they arrive, just have some mulled wine going, so that'll fill the whole house with that beautiful
It's
smell of mulled wine.
it's
Get it on the hob, get the mulled wine, burn the alcohol, get the mulled wine going, get some Christmas music going, playing at the same
I
time.
definitely have the Christmas music going on. Don't worry about
There you go.
that. Yeah,
That's honestly, they're the 2 things. They're the 2 things.
Christmas music.
Hey, like, as we would say on this show, right? It's a chance, and we've talked about this many times before, where we can turn every moment into turning everyday moments into mindfulness, right? And I think a lot of people think you have to have candles and silence, but you don't. We can be mindful. We talked about being mindful while washing up, feeling the hot water, and just having
Well,
that moment, or
I mean, this
noticing our
morning,
breath.
my mindfulness practice, as it were, my breath work and mindfulness practice, as it is often in the mornings when I'm working early, was I think I've described before in the shower where I do my breaths and my
There is a video people can watch on this, people. There
yeah,
is. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And the whole
yeah.
routine is shared on
Like,
Instagram.
on YouTube and my Instagram reels. But that was my deliberate mindfulness practice because, I take maybe an extra 15, 20 seconds to get out of the shower to do it. But at least I felt I've done, something mindful that day. And I think that's more and more as I do more and more talks and I talk about different health practices, the more and more I'm leaning into this idea that I think what I teach more and more is this integrative approach, this incidental approach with this. How can we tag it onto things we're doing? How can we tweak the things we're doing to be more mindful, to be more physical and athletic? Because the reality is, when you're working like you do, I do, and many other people listening to this, and you're getting up at 6 in the morning or whatever, you're leaving the house at 7, you're coming back at 7, you're cooking, you're doing all these things, you can't really tag on the 15 hours of self-care that you would love to do if you followed every Instagram trend. So when I do my veg in the morning, I've got my infrared light blaring at me there when I'm washing up, right? I have a that acupuncture mat, the plastic nails one, underneath
Yeah.
the sink of the washing up place, so I can feel that on my feet. So I'm trying to throw things in incidentally. When I'm doing my teeth, I've got the massage ball, right? When I'm doing the shower, I'm doing the breath work because I don't have time. I don't have time to deal with the other stuff. Don't have time.
Well, so we're talking about presence, right? Presence isn't found, right? It's practiced. And
Mm.
that's what we're trying to do on the show. I've got better at it, but I've got work I can still do. I can get distracted and be in my own little world, and sometimes you've got to practice these things. And just, yeah, I think Christmas is a great chance to find those moments.
Yeah, you get a bit
Um,
more space as well at Christmas, hopefully, if you've got enforced time off. Some
yeah,
people don't,
we need
but, you have a bit more time off.
spaces where miracles occur, right? I think also you find that for whatever reason, that's just the way the humans work. We get into an annual cycle, right? Where we get to Christmas or New Year, but I think it starts to happen before we get to New Year's Eve, where we start to self-evaluate how the year's gone. We
Mm.
often do that with our family. So I'd also say, while we're in the spirit of presence and mindfulness, like be kind to yourself. Try and end the year with compassion, not critique. Because you get a lot of people, and I've already heard some conversations of people talking to me about this, about where they've disappointed they haven't achieved this, or they really want to do that this year and they haven't done it. And people can be really hard on themselves. And obviously, it does. You can be in a situation where, like you were, you lost a parent, and you suddenly everything gets thrown into full view of reflection on actually the important things are with us and around us, and not always the things we haven't done. We've always got next year to replan. But I think like take the opportunity over Christmas to be kind to yourself and your family, and use it as a powerful reframe. Like you're not necessarily behind, you're still becoming. Like
Yeah.
there's time.
Yeah,
And
and and
what did you survive? What did you learn? Where did you show courage? I'm passionate about fear, but there's opportunities every time to look back at the positive things we've done, not just be critical about the things we haven't done.
and I've kind of flip-flopped between this idea of evaluating and not evaluating. And for the last few years, I don't think I've done any formal evaluation on the year or plan for the next year, which may well not be a good thing. But I'm somewhat of the mind at the moment of just riding waves that come rather than trying to plan the waves, as it were. And I think, you know, learning to surf is more important than trying to plan the waves that come, right? And so I think for me, I've left a little bit of that planning out the last few years. I think I should probably do something differently this year or 2026. But if you're listening to this and you're not someone that is, okay, well, I don't want to do a life audit and stuff. I mean, I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing. And I think it may be a good thing to do at some point, but I'm not saying that everyone has to be doing it at Christmas and New Year. I think that's the popular time. The challenge with that is that you have all the gusto behind you when you come into January to make these changes, but they generally don't stick. And so I would say rather than pressure yourself to get something there where there's already stuff going on with family and everything else, is maybe if you are going to do a review, you could do it at any time in the year. There's no rule that says you have to do something at the end of the year or
But
Christmas.
I think also do the review with a positive outlook on where you've shown courage, where you've achieved, where you've stepped into the unknown. Give yourselves credit rather than just things you haven't done. As I say, what did you survive this year? We always say be more kind. Everyone's going through something. But I read a stat earlier this week, actually. I was going to report it on one of the articles on my work site, but 1 in 4 adults report feeling even lonelier during the Christmas period. We know there's a loneliness epidemic anywhere as it is, let alone that being exacerbated by the Christmas period. And I think we feel more lonely when we get into that negative mindset. I think if we're feeling more positive, more grateful with the world, more thankful for what's happened, and being thankful to ourselves about the things we've achieved, you naturally feel less lonely. You can almost share the experiences with yourself
Yeah,
and give yourself
I
credit
was,
for it.
I read something today, and it was from the feedback. So I was delivering to an all boys school today. Typically, quite a good day. Last few years, it's always been quite a good day. High achieving, smart, on it, you give them instructions, they do it. And there was some interesting talk. So one actually talk, going back to the homelessness example that you were talking about, was about the homelessness and giving back, and using this time to think of others and all of that, which I thought was, these are, yeah, all boys school, 15 years old, right? They're talking about this. Like, I didn't get one talk about football, thankfully, which I thought I was going to get, but I did kind of warn them off that. But normally you get 5 or 6 about football. And then the other talk was, oh, so what he wrote in his feedback about the title of his speech was about, I think we put him through actually, or we put him on a reserve at least, but it was about, failure is not about making mistakes. It's about giving up or something like that, right? You can't fail if you don't give up, and just making mistakes isn't failure, because he was talking about how, you know, we might he quoted an Einstein, or paraphrased Einstein. So there's that famous example of Einstein. I don't know how true it is, but he writes all these equations up on the board, and he writes, 5 times 5 equals, like the last one is like 5 times 5 equals 35 or something like that. And then he asks the students what they see and go, yeah, but you got the last one wrong, Professor Einstein. Right? 5 times 5 is 25. He goes, yeah, but I got the other 9 right. Right? Why are you focusing on the one I got wrong when I did 9 others right? And he was using that, and it's this whole idea, like you say, about focusing on the positive, right? If I wanted to focus on the critical this year, I could say, well, I didn't do this. I didn't earn enough money there. I didn't speak on all these stages. Or I can focus on the fact that, okay, I traveled for 3 months, right? Pretty much at the
Yeah,
beginning of
yeah,
the
for
year,
sure.
right? I released my book after 10 years in the making, right?
That's a big win, by the way. That's a big win.
Yeah, it's a big win. And so actually now you're getting me to reflect a little bit. And I'm thinking maybe I should do a reflection this year, because I feel like that was a big win. Traveling was a big win, because that was my longest travel since 25 years. So there's been a few big wins. I
Funny
feel.
enough, one of mine is, which we won't know it yet, but mine is starting my book, which for me took courage because I kept thinking I wasn't good enough, or I need to wait. Now it's not ready yet, which will be published in a new year, hopefully April, May time. But obviously the book is about fear. And I think and the psychology of fear and how we can overcome it. But I think I've discovered even that, like, courage isn't about being loud and shouting and showing everyone what you've done. Sometimes it's just staying present when everything inside you wants to run. And it's like, for me, everyone was telling me I'm not ready, I'm not ready, not yet. When I've done my PhD, when I've done this, but actually, I just got started. I got started in silence. Not everyone's aware that I'm writing it. No one knows when it's coming out. But for me, that's a real achievement, because I've been saying to you and to others, I want to write this book for years. But this is the year 2025 when I actually sat down and started putting pen to paper every Tuesday, 10 till 12. I sit down and I write. And I'm proud of that. It's not ready yet, but I'm hoping, and you'll know what it's like. It might take longer than I anticipate, but I'm hoping it'll be published next year. But
Mm.
I'm really proud of that element, even though no one's even seen it yet. That's fine for me.
Yeah,
It's starting in the
I think that's
silence
it. I
and
think
being
it's just
proud of myself for making it good.
focus on those wins, because yes, there might be 1,000 near misses or failures, quote unquote, but so what, right? So Meta, Facebook, they've just announced effectively they're not binning, but they're scaling back the funding on their metaverse, right? So they've invested $70 billion into this project
Yeah.
in the last few years, which has had something like 35 users, or whatever the ridiculous number is. But I remember listening to an interview from Bill Gates, right? Love him or loathe him, it's a bit irrelevant for this example, but he was asked about all the failures that Microsoft had. So this was when he was back in charge, and it's like, well, none of these were failures, right? They were just learning experiences. And I do often say, you win some, you learn some, because the critics, right? The reporters, the critics will always try and show that, right? They'll point to Elon Musk's rockets blown up, and it's like, well, they're supposed to blow up because we're supposed to see what the tolerances are. We're supposed to see what we can get away with. They're meant to fail, and so I think that's the mindset. Really, is focus on the positives. The failures are just part of the journey, right? And so maybe you only got one success this year, and maybe that success is you just made it to the end of the year, right? Many people might not have done. Unfortunately, I'm doing a job tomorrow because my colleague had to pull out because her goddaughter's child, who was only 9 months old, passed away like
Yeah,
a
very sorry to hear that.
few weeks ago. One of my sister's oldest friends actually did her first. They both won a competition back in 2003, and they did a short movie together, and they both were on the competition winners. And she actually ended up living down her road, which is actually the road that one of the house I was in is on. And she passed away, I think 2 days ago, right? Leaving behind, I think, two young boys.
Mm.
So, maybe your only success this year is you've made it to the end of this year, right? So
I mean, look,
that
this is gonna sound really lovey-dovey, and you know what? It doesn't matter sometimes. Sometimes we need to hear it, right? Arguably, the greatest gift we can give ourselves is just to it never goes out of stock, right? It's just to be more kind. And not, not I don't mean to others, although that's part of it, but to ourselves, to our mind, kind to our body, kind to our story in that instance, to reminding ourselves that we are enough and you're here
mm,
and that's okay. Particularly if loneliness is something that really starts to show up in the Christmas period. We're just not kind enough to ourselves, and we that's it's a skill. Like anything, like a skill, you got to practice it. You got to practice this every day. That's why you're a big believer in gratitude diaries and thankfulness. And if we don't practice it, we forget how to do it. And it's weird because a lot of people will rebel against gratitude diaries. They don't know what to say, or it's not for me to write things down, or whatever. And you don't have that doesn't have to be the process you follow. But I do think that being kind to yourself is a daily practice, and I don't think we do it enough. And I do think that's one of the reasons there is a real crisis at the minute for loneliness and for people feeling unhappy and depression and mental health and these things, because everything out there is teaching us almost the opposite. It's teaching us the negative news, the negative things about ourselves. Every second image we see in social is all the things we could become, not the things we already are. How to make our mind better. Even this show, we're trying to help people optimize, optimize, optimize. That we get so caught in that kind of hamster wheel. We forget just to sit back, reflect, and go, I've done all right. I'm okay. Like, I'm a good person. I'm a good dad. I'm a good brother, good sister, good parent, good son, daughter, whatever, right? Whatever it is that you can be proud of, like remind yourself of the things you've done and the things you do for yourself. I started my book this year. That was my only target. I've ticked it off.
I mean, I think it's Marissa Peer, one of the she's a specialist in, I think, called RTT, rapid transformational therapy, something like that. She's worked with lots of celebrities. I might have mentioned her in the past, but she says the two biggest fears that she sees time and time again is people thinking, "I'm not enough and I won't be loved." Right? Those two things, when you get to the root of everything, is and effectively, I'm not enough because that's where I won't be loved comes from. And it's weird because as I look at life, I see there's lots of paradoxes because on the one side, you know, everyone is enough just the way they are. But on the flip side, we're always like you said, this whole podcast is about, maybe optimizing and getting better and everything
Sure.
else. And when we go to school, we're learning to get better, right? When we go to the gym, we're learning to get better. And everything in society is in a way telling us we're not enough, right? Because you need to do this, or you got a B in your exam and you didn't get an A, or whatever the grades are now. And it's all telling you you're not enough. And on the one side, you are enough. And that's why I say to people like perfection, where people say practice makes perfect. And I hate that phrase. So I say no, because perfection is the enemy of action. But on the flips, and like nothing's ever perfect, but on the flip side, you're perfect just the way you are. And the more I look into life and the universe in general, the more I see paradoxes everywhere. And I think that paradox is the beauty of it all, because something is both true and not true at the same time. It's basically like a Schrodinger cat, if anyone understands
It's like a
physics.
self-help junkie, right? You get people that may be consuming this content right now because they're in that category where they're constantly purchasing more and more self-help books and more, but eventually it gets to a point where if you read too many, it's a constant reminder that you're not good enough. Like, it has to be a point where you even shed the self-help and just go out alone and follow what it is you need to be, because otherwise you get stuck with these things. And I call them self-help junkies because there's a point in time where you have to go, okay, I need to live my life now and not always be reminded, because every time you read a book, there'll be some level of insight that will remind you that you're probably not good enough or you haven't fully optimized yet. And maybe the Christmas season this year doesn't have to be about finding a better version of you. It could just be about finding a kinder one.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different. But I've been in that. I know you and I have both been in those journeys. I think at times where you get so obsessed with reading and optimizing and finding out more. There's always something else we can do. You end up in a cycle of sometimes you almost need to just stop all that stuff and put it aside
Yeah.
and go, right, this is who I want to be. This is what I believe in. This is what I'm going to
I
follow.
definitely I mean, I think it's that whole pendulum approach that I think we talked about before, like where you get into something, whether it's diet or exercise, whatever. I mean, you swing hard on pendulums right now. You're on the pendulum of,
I'm in the paddle
yeah,
pendulum in a minute,
I
mate.
was
I'm
about to say
all in on
you're in the
paddle.
paddle pendulum, right? Like
I am,
my
mate. I'm all in.
comparison, I don't know when your first ever game paddle was. It was maybe like 8 months ago or 9 months ago.
Yeah.
Right, my first game of paddle was 3 years ago, and I went to a Mark Warner holiday in Lesbos. Right, so I picked up the paddle, then played a few times, really enjoyed it. Then I picked it up again maybe 2 years later, and I haven't played. You invited me last week, but that would have been my first game in over a year and a bit. And so I kind of, I like it. I get my toe into things, right? Sometimes I go hard on the pendulum. But there was a point, like maybe it was a year and a half ago, where you were getting really into your yoga at one point, and
Yeah, yeah.
that
Yeah, you know, I'm a hobbyist, so I go all in until I hit a
all
plateau.
in on one side. There you go. You swing back on the other. But that's what my point is, that there is that pendulum approach, and sometimes that's fine. Right, you find your middle ground.
My veganism didn't work for me. I
Yeah,
went for it. I read the Rich Roll book,
yeah, yeah.
went all in and didn't change, didn't optimize, kept doing all my hardcores, endurance runs and stuff, and then almost passed out and I didn't get it right, and that was it. That was convinced me that it wasn't right for me, but I didn't really tackle it probably in the right way.
The point is,
Funny enough,
it's
I
parallel.
owe you a
It's one side and the other side, right? They're both just flip sides.
I owe you a public apology on the paddle side for last week. I did invite you to a game for those listening. I said, "Harry, do you fancy this game?" However, I was being a kind version of myself, although you were the fool guy for it, because I was really excited when you said yes. I was like, "Yeah, it's a really good game. It'd been really good, fun, competitive, like fun match." But a friend of mine in the office, I don't think he listens to this, but maybe others do. Sadly, just lost his mum. She passed away, and he came into work, offered the time off. He didn't want it, wanted to come in, and he said, "Yeah, my family is my colleagues at JGA." So he was. I said, I had a chat with him, and he's a bit emotional. We had a meeting, and he was a bit emotional. And I felt like I just had to ask him to come along. So I said, "Do you want to come along?" He said, "Yes." Now, I'll publicly say he may have been one of the worst paddle players I've ever seen, to the point which I think it became a bit of we had such a belly laugh, all of us. And we were talking about smashes he'd go for, and he just missed the ball completely, and the ball would land on his head. And we were just laughing. I think he needed it. I think we needed it. But it was also highlighted to me, and I think all of us, because we reflected on it afterwards, that sometimes it can be too competitive. Like I go in, I love paddle because I like the competitive side of it. I like trying to win games. That didn't matter. We just swapped players around. We all had a laugh,
Yeah.
and it was really nice to come away just having a social game where the result didn't matter, and we all knew we were supporting a colleague who needed the community, the social friendship side, the support. So it was really quite lovely. But apologies, because I said, "Do you want to come?" Invited you. You said yes. Got yourself planned, and then I cancelled you.
Well, what
So
I didn't realize
apologies.
that, like, I thought I was just gonna take that spare gap, right? So I just said, "Yeah," and I'll just turn up. And then you were like, "Oh, no, you gotta," 'cause then you had to download an app.
You had to
Yeah.
click in and
And I
accept it, yeah, and you hadn't, and the other guy came in and
and
jumped.
actually, secretly, before when I texted you anyway, I was lying almost comatose on the couch with my light devices, basically cringing at the fact I'd have to go out again to, like,
Okay.
drive to Hatfield for half an hour and
It was
play
a
this thing.
bad text to get.
All I wanted to do that night was just lie on the couch, and I said to my mum, "Oh, really? I've committed, and that's the kind of person I am." I'm like,
Oh,
"Yeah,
no.
yeah, I do." So I texted you, and then you were like, "Oh, no, sorry, someone else has taken the spot." And I was like,
That's a bit like when you're arranging Christmas dinner, right, and you're not quite ready, and your guests that are coming round, and they go, "We're running a little bit late." That's usually me that's running late,
yeah,
and I always feel like I know that no one likes anyone to be late, and it's not a great attribute of mine because I'm often late. But I always feel like I'm always slightly relieved when someone tells me they're running late if I'm hosting, because it gives you that
yeah,
extra few minutes to get things done.
yeah.
So,
Well, we'll
I imagine.
I will aim to play next time. And also part of me was a little reluctant because the last time I played paddle, which was last October, a year and a bit ago, I pulled my calf muscle. And then the day after what would have been the day that I would be playing you last week, I was due to give a talk about super vitality and all this and the other. And I was like, I don't want to be hobbling into central London, like giving a talk. So secretly, I was like, I don't want to risk anything. And part of my mind is like, I really want to get warmed up with paddle. But next time you're in that area,
We'll do it.
'cause I
Yeah,
do want to, yeah, have a little paddle, and it'd be good to like do something fun like that, hanging out with you as well. So that'd be cool. Yeah,
it would be good. Would be good. And obviously, Christmas is about sharing and friends and family and all that malarkey. So,
yeah.
I'm quite excited. So we know a little bit about your plans, know a little bit about mine. What other advice or anything else you'd like to share with our community?
I mean, I was talking to my friend the other day about a Christmas shopping. So by the time this goes out, it might well be a bit late in the day anyway. But my advice with the Christmas shopping, which I think I give every year, is personally, I would try and get, even though I want to support the local shops, right? And I would do that. I would always get your stuff online first as a backup. And also you can return things if it's on Amazon, you can return it to the end of January. So that when you go Christmas shopping and you get the feel, you're not super stressed and you don't have to get everything because you've already got some stuff and you can support the local shops in that way. And then you can always return, I guess, the stuff on Amazon, even though that's probably not very good from a climate change perspective, all that extra transport. But so that would be my thing. It's about, for me, it's about minimizing stress, right? Because I don't feel like these things should be stressful. I know they are because you're cooking and you've got all this stuff, but I feel like a lot of it is self-inflicted stress that people put to, for some reason, right? Because they want to keep up with the Joneses, they want to make everything perfect, they've got lots of screaming kids. And I'm speaking from a different perspective from those people who have got lots of families and kids. But it's really about, I think, for me, not losing sight of what it's all supposed to be about, right? It's about a joyful time. And also, what I would say is maybe, even if you're not spiritual, maybe, or religious, maybe try and add that element to it, right? Do something maybe a little bit different this year. So that might be going to a church, it might be volunteering somewhere, it might be doing something like Basket Brigade. If you're in London, check out basketbrigade.org, I believe, where they pack hampers of food for people on the day before Christmas Eve, is when we normally do it in North London. So do something from a spiritual or purpose or community giving kind of perspective,
Love
rather
that.
than just the family, the food, the shopping.
I mean, if you listen to that podcast, I begin again with Davina McCall about the guy who takes the guy in from home, the homeless guy in. It is a tearjerker, but I think the one message that comes, and I've talked about it a lot on the show before, that's my favorite Chinese proverb, the idea that I'll mention it again. Sorry if you've heard this a few times, but I don't think you can ever hear it enough. And like, it's good to retell it. And if you want to be happy for an hour, sleep. If you want to be happy for a day, fish. If you want to be happy for a year, inherit a million. If you want to be happy for a lifetime, give back to others. And that's very much what that podcast is about.
No.
Yes, it cost them bringing someone in. Yes, there were risks involved. Yes, there was stress and all these things. But giving back is ultimately what gave them the ultimate kind of feeling of worth and value and happiness, joy. And Christmas is a time where we have that opportunity to give back in whatever capacity. It doesn't mean you have to necessarily go and do the charitable thing. If of course you can do that, you can give back in many, many different ways. But I think if we go into Christmas with the mindset of at some point, I want a good, try and do it every day, but I can do a good deed and give back to others. You'll be amazed at how much that
No.
can make you feel more present, more joy,
Mm.
more valuable, more kind, all those things.
I mean,
Uh,
yeah, it reminds me of a story I was reading about recently and watching on YouTube channel. There's a guy who, I think he set off around the same sort of time as me, but for my travels, from the tip of Chile back in 1998 or 1999. And he's walking home, and he spent the last 27 years walking back. So he walked all the way up through Chile, up into Central America, across the Panama Canal, all the way up America. He even walked across from Alaska to Siberia, across the Bering Strait, or walked, or could not take anything motorized basically to advance his journey. So he's taken him 27 years, and he's about a year away from getting home. So he's somewhere in Russia or Eastern Europe or somewhere like that, and he's walking all the way home. 27 years it's taken him, but one thing he said was just that, there's so much kindness out in the world, right? So many people who've helped him out on his journey that, total strangers. And if all you do is watch the never-ending wasted stress, aka the news, then you don't get that sense about the world, right? Sometimes you get it like at little periods, maybe at Christmas, right? You go do things or whatever. But yeah, his overwhelming message was just how kind the world is, right? When you actually get out there and meet people in the flesh and do things, overwhelmingly. Yeah.
kind of what I know this show's called the Mindful Past podcast, right? But I mean, it's the reminder, isn't it? The mindfulness isn't about escaping life. It's about meeting it with presence, with kindness, compassion, courage. I think they call it the season to be jolly, right? If you're feeling joyful, like this is the opportunity to savor it. Like don't let it pass you by. Really, like when you when you get that moment when you really feel like you're happy and you're joyful. And I always get this at Christmas, right? I m- notice the moment, be in that moment, and really embrace it. And you can magnify that joy even further. And if for you it feels really heavy for whatever reason, then just be gentle with yourself. Like be kind to yourself. Go back to all the things you have achieved. Like there's so many things we can be thankful for during the course of the year, and sometimes it takes that reflection, that reflective moment to have it. And if you really can't find it, then go and be kind to somebody else.
Yeah.
Like if you can't be kind to yourself, start with being kind to yourself. Although I'd argue kind to real happiness starts with being kind to yourself first. But
Yeah.
you can start practicing that process by being kind to others.
Yeah. Sometimes
Uh,
it's easier to give to others than give to yourself, although I
yeah,
always try to get people to fill their own cup first. But if it helps, be kind to someone else. Yeah. The
yeah, yeah. That's
people.
yeah, heavy stuff. Well, I don't know what we are going to go today, but we've talked about Dad's photographs. I feel like I should remove, but I'll get there. And I appreciate you sharing this space with me. And I got quite emotional about it yesterday.
Mm,
I really did, but I feel like I can talk about it a little bit more.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's yeah. I mean, look, everyone does their own process, and this whole yeah, I should be doing this. I should be deleting this. I should. What does this mean? I mean, it means whatever you want it to mean, I guess, and you can get to it in your own time if you.
first lesson you gave in the first podcast you ever recorded. Nothing means anything but the meaning you give it.
I say that every single day I'm doing a workshop.
Yeah,
I say that every single day because I talk about it in a different capacity in terms of nerves, but I firmly I give them 2 bits of life advice. Well, several bits, but 2 bits I give them, and one is that. The second is you can only control 2 things in life, is your own attitude and your own actions. And so I get them to focus on those things, and I say, if you understand that now, 99.999% of adults don't understand that. And even the small percentage that do, like myself, we still forget it all the time. I worry about things I've got no control over all the time. You
you
know?
often think the things we most need to learn, right? Coming straight back at you.
Exactly, exactly.
The other one, of course, maybe there are people listening to this that just hate Christmas for whatever reason. It's not their time of year. Maybe it's there's traumatic moments, grief. In your instance, that could be the case. In which case, then the other famous thing we talk about a lot is this too shall pass.
Mm, exactly.
This
It
will pass,
will.
and we'll start again, and we can go at it again. So,
Exactly.
um,
All
there you
right.
go.
Well, nice chatting. Merry
Well, next time
Christmas.
we catch up, mate, it's going to be just after Christmas, probably just pre-New Year. We'll do probably a New Year special or something along those lines. I would anticipate.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
so
maybe actually how to make habits that stick, where we'll get something out of my book or whatever.
always a good one.
Mm,
I mean, thank you to all our listeners that have stayed with us this year and who've joined us during the course of the year. The show continues to grow, which is great. We're reaching new people. Keep sharing it with your friends. Join us on Instagram if you get a chance. Leave us comments, voice notes, whatever goes. We love hearing the feedback, and we've had a few listener requests this year, and when we've had them, we've always tried to make the next episode based around the feedback we've had. So, if you have something we haven't discussed, or something you want us to explore further, or maybe something you really disagree with, or whatever it is,
mm,
if you let us know, we'll try and address it head on in a future episode. So, I've got several gadgets I want to tell you about in the next episode as well, because I've been trialing out low level laser treatment for various injuries, which I want to feed back on how they've gone.
yeah.
So that might be interesting.
Yeah.
Using
Yeah,
red
I'm
light
curious
therapy.
to hear, especially because it's a device I trialed back in September. Moment's Health.
Yeah, which I discovered as we joined the show. Yeah, yeah. So that should be quite interesting. So
Yeah.
I'm intrigued to see if this solves my tennis elbow problem. But
Yeah,
that aside,
excellent.
mate, I'm looking forward to seeing what Christmas will bring, and
Well well,
hopefully we'll get.
have a fantastic Christmas, both Nick and everyone listening, and as Nick says, yeah, do, connect with us on socials, mindful_paths_podcast on Instagram, right? And you can message us on that as well.
Great stuff. All right, Harry. Merry Christmas to you and your family. Love to your mum, and I'll speak to you soon, buddy.
Likewise, take care, buddy. Cheers.